Hello, this is Debbie McAllister, and this is Light Up Your Worth. I'm so excited to bring you the guest today. It is Jen Jones. So, Jen is a realtor, an author, a speaker, and an entrepreneur. She has been an entrepreneur for over 20 years and has successfully scaled businesses by building deep, meaningful relationships with her clients that inspire repeat business and referrals. She lives by the motto, go deep, not wide. She recently wrote Intropreneur Strategies for Building a Business as an Introvert Entrepreneur. So Jen guides her clients through the four-step process to harness their invert, authentic selves, have more energy, awareness, so that they can align their business and life with meaningful connections, elevate relationships, which produce more referral and repeat business with the right people. She's also the mom of 3 children, and she gets how important it is to balance family and a fulfilling business that doesn't drain your battery and burnout. When she's not showing homes, helping clients, or volunteering, you'll find her enjoying her alone time, yoga, owning her intuition skills, meditating, and journaling. She could be my best friend because of all the stuff that she does. So welcome, Jen. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you. I'm ready to dig in. It's going to be a good day. It's going to be a good day.
It is. When I was reading this, the motto, go deep, not wide, I use that motto. That's one of the things I do when I help people through change in the corporate environment. So I love that you did that. And we touched on that you have this amazing book. I'm going to show it so that people who can visually see it on YouTube, you can see, but see if it will stay. It is amazing, this book. I have always been told I was an expert, right? But I would be so drained pushing through everything that needed to be coming with motherhood and career. And I read your book and I thought, holy moly. Thank you for reading, for writing it. You go into it, and there's 4 sections in the book. And when I was in chapter 2, the 4 types of inverts is where I'm just like going to power right through right now. And I would love if you wouldn't mind sharing what those 4 types of inverts are for those who are like, no, I'm an invert. No, I'm an expert. What is an invert?
Yep. So real quick, before I do that, my definition for introvert, extrovert are very simple. It's extroverts get their energy from the external, and introverts get energy from going inward and being alone. So I don't really get into like a lot of the other details. That's how I just say, like, this is how it is. And I do think that COVID has shifted our perspectives, both as introverts and extroverts. So I like how what you said. So there are 4 types, and they are social, thinking, anxious, and reserved. So there's 4 types of introverts, and everyone loves quizzes. So it's just a little quiz where you go through and you put your little number in. And for myself, I'm a social first, and then just a couple points down, I'm a thinking introvert. So
yeah, maybe that's why I love the book so much, because I am the same thing. I'm a social invert and thinking. And when I read this, what stood out to me so much was that I can think back to throughout my career why I would come home from work and I feel like I was literally brain dead. Like, I would come home, my son was young, and his father would ask me, well, ask some kind of basic question, right? Like, what do you want to eat for dinner? Or I want us to go out. Where do you want to go? Right. Some simple. And I couldn't make a decision to save my life. He's like, what'd you do? Leave all your brain at work? Or, I mean, he was kind of funny, not funny about it, but I never really understood, like, how could I be so absolutely wiped out? And these are good days. These aren't like those extra special days. And understanding the social aspect of this was really, really, it kind of rocked my world about this. And so I was reading this. And so how would you explain that to somebody? Like, I mean, I could read it. I have the book right here too, but
Yeah, no, I can explain it
yeah.
very simply. And, social. And I sort of took my twist to it because that's the one that really resonated the most for me was that, I always said that I was an ambivert because I had the social skills, but I always like to go inward to get energy. So, but I had built the social skills. Being a realtor, it's a very, um, personality based industry that you have to have personality and charisma and selling and all this stuff. So I just matched my people that I was up against. The whole, we can go into success another time, but it was just really learning the skills to be more social. And now I've settled into what actually feels good. Like we were talking about, we're both polka dots and,
Mhm.
doing, networking meetings and that, I have a whole course on how to network and, finding your people. And then how do you network and feel good about it? Because it's not just going to hand out business cards, but there are some people who social is not something that comes easily to them. I do think that it's a learned skill. People can do that, but honestly, if it doesn't align, then don't do it. And that's how some people are like, you know what, I'm done networking. It really isn't working for me. I'm going to do something a little different. My networking is going to be one on one. So when I think of social, I think of groups, whether it's small or larger groups where you have the ability and social skills to actually enjoy it and not be completely depleted at the end of it. But you have to prepare yourself. So for this, I took a nap before I came on. So it's one of those things where if you prepare yourself for an event that most likely will, drain your battery, just like using your phone. It's not necessarily always a bad thing, although we want to be aware of the things that drain our battery. But going to be social, it does, it just drains the battery. Just like if you were on the phone talking to people or texting or watching video, whatever it is, you're draining your battery. And so it doesn't have to be a complete depletion, but you really need to remember that you have to fill your cup, fill your battery, then go do that. And don't stack things one after the other, because then you're probably going to be really depleted by the end. But it's someone who can manage that and someone who can really bring themselves to the table or to the meeting or to the event. Being social, that's really what it is. Being thinking is that we have a tendency to what I'll call always, I think we're always thinking. We're always going through different scenarios as to, oh, I just had that conversation with someone, or I'm going to have a conversation with someone, and we sort of ruminate about things quite often. And that is really the signature of a thinking introvert, where, I said that whatever to somebody. And now you're like, oh, I could have said it differently, or I could have told them this, or, if someone asks for your opinion on the spot, you're like, deer in headlights. Well, let me get back to you on that. And then it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you wake up and you're like, that's it. Why didn't I think of that 12 hours ago or whatever it is? So that's the social and thinking. Anxious is really very much along the lines of when you have anxiety. It really is, if you're anxious about being around other people, anxious about talking in front of people. So there is that, what I'll call social anxiety. But it could be something a little bit different. But that's what I've seen with clients of mine, is that usually it's a social anxiety where they just don't want to be with other people. And then you have someone who's reserved, who really would just like to be alone. They do their own thing. Most of the time, I have a couple people that are coaches, and all they do is one-on-one coaching. They don't do anything else. They might do a master class. They might do something else, but for the most part, they're pretty reserved in, even sharing their thoughts.
Yeah. I love that you're able to articulate that so people could really start to see themselves really clearly. And the quiz, right? The quiz that's in here is actually kind of fun because like you said, who doesn't like a good quiz, right? Like, um, what I found pretty powerful about being a social is that I did join Polka Dots. And what I found it different for what you're saying was that I went there and I can only really converse with one or two people. When I first went there, I had like 15 people who wanted to meet with me one-on-one, and I was overwhelmed. I ended up not being able to ever meet all those 15 people. When you put your name in at the end, who do you want to get to know? It was just so overwhelming. And so what I found though was that group was very different than any other place I had gone to meet other women, is that people actually wanted real connections. And so the people that I was able to work into our, and coordinate with our schedules, that those are really nice. They were really nice connections and enjoyable. But like yourself, before today, I took a power nap. I took a 20-minute power nap so that I would have my energy. So it's so funny that how you had prepared yourself. And I think you mentioned it in the book, is that after you go to something, you've had to block off time afterwards. Well, I found out that I needed 2 hours after a network. And then what I realized is after a couple, monthly meetings, was that I blocked out the rest of the afternoon, because it would then sometimes it would jolt a creative idea after I recovered because of all of the people. And I figure that's kind of like my human design manifesting generator. When that idea comes, my 4-6, like, oh, like I got to go figure out what that creative idea is, as they come, and get it out or write it out or whatever it was. And so this really helped me understand why I was so tired.
Yeah.
I mean, I needed this book 20 years ago. So I'm glad you wrote it today.
I might have needed it at least 10 years ago. So it's interesting how, things come full circle. And, I really enjoyed writing it, and it brought up a lot of stuff, and just putting some of that out into the world and knowing that people were going to read it was really, I definitely needed my cheerleading, section to like say, you got this.
Yeah, it's just so powerful. And I love how you take, going into those, and then you go into evaluating your life circles, and so that we can understand how to do this. There's some really good reflective questions. I'm not going to give them away for people so that if they want to go read it, but then you go into the whole invert energy toolkit.
Oh yes.
With the steps. And I just thought it was so powerful. Pinpointing an energy leak.
Yeah.
Like, was my head the only one that went boom, right? Like, pow, like mic drop, energy leaks.
Yeah.
I had a coach talk about energy leaks many years ago on a personal development program. And it was actually geared more towards men, this program, and your own personal development. And energy leaks was so important. So I wanted to dig into, what do you see? You have all these examples of depleting energy, but some people may not have ever heard of that. What is an energy leak?
Yeah, and there's been so much more that has come forward after even just writing, what I'll call the surface, like scratching the surface of energy in that chapter. So pinpointing energy leaks is you got to get aware of what you're doing every single day. So I recommend doing this daily evaluation tool, which is in my free energy toolkit, where you literally every activity. So sometimes people do productivity tracking where every 15 minutes you put down what you're doing. This is a little bit different. This is, each task that you're doing throughout the day, whether it's personal or professional, it's tracking. Okay, put that down. What are you doing and how do you feel? What are you doing and how do you feel? Do you feel energized or do you feel like it's draining your battery? And so, like I said, some things are good. Like we just live in a world that our batteries need to be recharged, but we're looking at really things that deplete our energy, such as people, toxic people. I could go really, toxic people, but people in general. And it could be activities that we're doing in our business or in our personal life that really are like, I do not want to do this, but I'm having to do it. So this depletes my energy. And then we have expectations that we put on ourselves can deplete our energy. So these are energy leaks, right? The expectations that we put on ourselves, expectations that we feel are on us by everybody else, and our negative self-talk can be draining, and being around, groups of people that may also, be an energy leak. They're not giving. It's always, you're depleted at the end of it. Those are examples of energy leaks.
Yeah, very, very powerful to have that awareness. I've done a workshop. It's probably been like 3 years now since I hosted it. It was prior to COVID and the shutdown, where we would actually take our calendar, whether it was electronic or paper, and go through month by month and create like mind map circles of every appointment, right? First, you could do it one or two ways. You could either already draw it in the color, red, yellow, green, about how you felt about that, the people, place, experience that you had. And you pull out your calendar so that you can go through there and you do it by month, all these circles, and you start realizing like, wow, June had a lot of red.
Yeah.
Like I was not like, is that somebody I don't want in my circle? Is that some of that? And I never, really, it wasn't about depleting my energy, but really it can be the perspective of also depleting my energy. Is that somebody I wanted to continue with? Or maybe they're yellow. Maybe it was just a bad month for them, right? And you were supporting them, but not somebody that you want to act out. And then like, okay, where are all my green people? Okay, those are where I want to continue to build the relationship in my community. And so when I was reading this, I thought of that exercise, in the workshops. And even though it took time, doing that every month instead of waiting to the end of the year so you could course correct. And I wanted to touch on something too that you said about post-COVID, post-lockdown.
Yeah.
And that awareness with whether you're an invert or an extrovert.
Yeah.
Tell me more about what you think about how that has impacted this.
We had no other choice but to slow down. And so people who are close to me and some clients that have thought of themselves either as ambiverts or extroverts. And you'll see in some of even the reviews, they're like, I thought I was an extrovert, but I'm rethinking this. Maybe after COVID, I'm an introvert. And what the puzzle pieces that I've put together is that we had time for ourselves as women. I have a couple men in my group, but I have not worked with any men. So my perspective is very much from the female position, is that when we're able to take care of ourselves and have the time to do it, we're better for it. And so what I have realized and have heard time and time again, and actually more now because I think people are actually burnt out, but people have told me that they've actually spent time with themselves and it's not scary. So some of it might be avoidance, like they didn't want to be with whatever thoughts they had in their mind. And it also gave them perspective that they matter and that they were putting something else first before themselves.
Yeah, after they got through all of the binge watching of Netflix or
Mhm.
Amazon
Yes, all that.
Prime, right? Then they're like, what am I going to do now? Or the
Yeah. And it was,
gardening or those type of
yeah,
activities that like went skyrocketed. Who doesn't have a garden now?
right.
It's
Yeah.
shocking.
I mean, I love gardening, which is very surprising for me because I kill plants, but the outside plants I keep alive, the inside ones, no go.
Hmm.
But I feel like now I'm hearing, so it almost came full circle. So I heard all of that. And now I'm hearing a lot of women say that they're feeling like they're burnt out. I actually feel like I'm burnt out. And I try to use that. I don't use that word lightly because I think that there's different things that come along with burnout. And I'm just like, wow, so maybe I was burnt out, but now I'm trying to come out of it. And I have a project that I want to work on. And I haven't taken that next step because I don't want to lose the time that I have for myself. Like, well, if I do that big project, am I going to have this time still to take care of myself? And am I going to end up burnt out again? So this, like, making sure that you don't follow the cycle again and fall into the hole again, the one that's under the carpet.
Oh my gosh. I just had this huge epiphany when you were saying that, is that I have been having this conversation with my sister. These are our conversations. This is the conversation with my sister's my best friend, and then I have my other BFF. And her and I have been talking a lot about that exactly, is that as I have made a move across states, accepted a new role, which I really am enjoying, is that I had to peel back so much stuff. And now I am like, okay, I need so much time to be able to do things that I kind of like tried to do too much before. I'm going to power through it. I guess I'm considered a high achieving woman, and I'm just going to power right through it. And now I'm like, okay, I am making these changes, and I am slowly, instead of checking off my list after I've moved, I haven't even changed my mailing address with the post office. I usually have that done before I've even left where I'm moving, right? Like, and I have these lists, and and I'm doing stuff. I'm just doing it in balance with,
Right.
have I ate my healthy meal?
Mhm.
Have I slept? What I discovered this last year was that finally discovered how much sleep I need versus what I've lived most of my life on.
Yeah.
Thank
Share. I'd love to hear because
Oh my gosh. So I stopped I was part of a layoff, right, with my regular job last in June 2021. Unexpected layoff. And I told myself I had had these mentors, Johnny and Laura, who lived their life without an alarm clock.
yes.
And I thought, how do you wake up? Because I don't know about you, but the first thing I go do is coffee, right? Look at how many coffee memes we have. Coffee. Like, I feel like, just plug me in with the IV, right? Like, and I at one point could drink 2 big cups of coffee. So it came back. Somehow I got that in my mind, like that would be nirvana if I could just sleep every day. And so I kept my normal, most days, I kept my same nighttime uh, bedtime, not all times. Sometimes I stayed up way too late because I got an idea or something. But
Right.
for the most part, I was keeping my same bedtime. And then I would just wake up. unless I had something very specific that I had to go to. And I found that my body woke up within this 45-minute zone for 10 months. And what I realized is I actually need 9 hours of sleep. And so my sister and I were talking, and I said, I think I'm going to have to go to bed like at 8 o'clock to go to work, because I'm used to getting up at 5:45 or 5:30, because also at that time I realized that my morning meditation sets my day and my evening. I have a morning, and thank you, Dr. Joe Dispenza. Oh, but that is so important to get through my energy levels of what you talk about.
Right.
That leaky energy of not connecting in with myself. And so what have you found with working with people?
Mhm.
Have they had similar, like, these ahas that are like, wow, I need 9 hours of sleep. How am I going to do that? And do a
Right.
meditation on both ends.
Right. And I do talk about, having, a routine, especially in, so what I actually just talked about this in like a Facebook group is someone had mentioned the miracle morning, which I did probably like 4 or 5 years ago. And so I got up at 5 o'clock in the morning or 4:30, whatever horrendous time. If you get up at that time, I'm like, bow down to you. I also need, anywhere from 8 to 10 hours of sleep, because that's where I just perform the best. And I'm an adrenaline junkie. And most of my clients have a tendency to fall down that same path of, once you get that, a taste of adrenaline, you're like, you just get on there and you go. And it's like, wait a minute, that's where we get that burnout part. So calm that down. And getting sleep helps with the adrenaline and needing that adrenaline fix during the day. I feel like I've been a recovering adrenaline junkie for like 7 years now. So it's something that I've been very aware of. I used to sleep 4 hours, tops 5 hours a day for decade plus. And, I was wondering why life didn't feel quite right, but I didn't know what it was. And then the clients that I work with, sleep has always been, I think an issue for a lot of people. Well, you were saying, well, I stayed up late because I got this like creative urge. And it's like, you hear that. It's like, oh, well, I'm a night owl and that's when I get my really good ideas, or I'm a morning person. That's where I get my good ideas. And it's like, that's okay. You just, like you said, you might have to go to bed like a 7-year-old. My 7-year-old goes to bed at 7:30, 8 o'clock. And it's like, I'm in bed right after he goes to bed, because it's like, I need that time in order to feel rejuvenated in the morning. But the clients themselves, sleep has been something that's on their radar. And then just getting up in the morning and having that time has really been a game changer for like 100% of the people that I work with. And it doesn't have to be, I think I got sidetracked. When I did Miracle Morning, I did every single step, the 5 steps. If can't remember them all off the top of my head, meditation, reading, exercise, all that stuff. And now I'm like, you don't have to do that at 5 or 4 o'clock, 4:30 in the morning. You can do it when you wake up. And maybe it's only 10 minutes. And so just start, because I'm an all or nothing kind of gal, right?
Mhm.
So it's like, well, I need that 2 hours so I can get all that in. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, consistency, structure, that's really great. But it's about how you feel. And sometimes we forget that because we're checking things, or I'm checking things off the list.
Yes.
And so it's a matter of
Guilty.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we all have lists.
We all have lists, but it's one of those things where give yourself permission to do those things throughout the day. Give yourself permission to do those things throughout the day. If it doesn't fit in your schedule to do an hour, hour and a half in the morning, do one thing in the morning that really is a game changer, that's grounding for you, that gets you through the day. Because sometimes that's really all you have, depending on what your schedule is. I really feel like it's gotten pretty crazy in the world. And sometimes we just need that like 10 or 15 minutes to just ground and be ready for the day.
Mhm. I love that you were an all or nothing. I'm telling you, so was I. I
Well,
mean, and I still have to watch
I was just gonna
myself.
say, I'm like,
Like,
it might be was, but I am, and I catch myself that,
mhm.
okay, I can still do this. I have 15 minutes. What can I get done? It doesn't need to be the whole hour. I can do 15 minutes of something.
Yeah, I have found that I make a conscious, well, half sleep deprived. Like a couple nights ago, I woke up at like 3
Oh
and
yeah.
couldn't fall back to sleep. And so I was probably up an hour and a half, right? Tossing and turning. And then eventually I put on some energetic healing,
Yeah.
and then her voice puts me to sleep. Alicia, I've had her on the show. I'll do something, and my body just knows, right? It's like been trained because I've worked with her for so many years now. And so it knows it like automatically relaxes, and then I fell back into sleep. But that morning when the alarm went off at 5:45, just barely had fallen back to sleep, really. I have it set on my, because I use my iPhone because I have to have an alarm now, but I pretty much wake up right before, except those kind of mornings. But I also have where you can set the alarm to go off for like a mini nap, and it's set for 45 minutes. I make that decision of like, is the meditation going to ground me, or is that extra 45 minutes are going to sleep? And I give myself permission because I'm not going to be my best self.
Mhm.
And I've been really surprised about the the level of sleep and the impact on being able to manage my energy throughout the day
Yeah.
without wanting to go add, because I will not go add caffeine
Yep.
because it will start that vicious cycle.
Yeah. Yeah. And
And
you talked about eating a little bit ago, and
mhm,
I spoke for, LabCorp a couple weeks ago, and the amount of, I'm like, okay, raise, it was Zoom, raise, we had over 250 people on the Zoom call, or it wasn't Zoom, it was a WebEx, whatever it is. Anyway, it's new software for me, but I managed. And it was like, okay, well, raise your hand if you work through your lunch. Do you eat your lunch while you're still working? Right. And I want to say like 90% of the people who answered that they do.
mhm,
And it's like, I remember that. I remember doing it because I felt like I would be more productive, I'd get more done. And I truly believe that it's the opposite. When we can walk away from whatever we're doing for 30 minutes and rejuvenate our energy around noontime, whatever lunch it is, I really believe that we come back refreshed and able to be more productive. But for whatever reason, it's this ingrained habit of wanting to prove that we don't need lunch. We can just move through and we can just get it done. And I think that
mhm.
it's a huge habit of really just it doesn't serve anybody at all. And so I did challenge them to at least take a week or one day a week, just try it once, and see what the difference is. And I obviously didn't hear back as to what that looked like, but I just I feel like if you don't challenge people, they just keep doing the same thing because it's kind of working.
Yeah. That's so funny is today I take a half an hour because have spent most of my career eating through my lunch or feeling bad of like, well, last Friday I had to go get my teeth cleaned. So I'm gonna, you know, put it all in. But in one of my personal development programs that I found out was that in learning to understand self-care
Mhm.
was that, and the differences between men and women, and this is not a bash on men, I love men, is that a man is naturally wired from, caveman days to take care of their needs. And so you don't see them sitting and eating through their lunch like we do. They're like, I'm hungry, I'm going to go eat and then I'll come back. Even if it's 15 minutes, they will still pause and go take care of themselves. Or, you don't see them like galloping into the restroom, eat like some really basic needs. They will take care of themselves for the most part, I mean, sure, there's exceptions, but because it's just kind of inadvertently, and so I think that's where some of the self-care came in of like, they're like, well, why wouldn't you go eat your lunch?
Right.
Like, it doesn't even occur to them not to eat your lunch.
Yeah.
Or if I'm tired, I'm going to go to bed.
Right. No, it's so, those are some good points, because I think it's very, very true. Very true. And I think part of it, or at least for me, and what I've seen in, not necessarily clients, because I don't necessarily work with people in careers who are working corporate, but it's this needing to prove themselves, needing to prove that like you can get it all done.
That we're worthy.
But then they're saying, that they're working and doing 2 people, 3 people's jobs. It's like, well, in order to be more efficient, you got to take care of yourself.
Yeah. That's so powerful. So everybody who's listening, have you figured out how much sleep you need? It really is like it just changes everything. It really is a part of like, light up your worth is about helping people connect with their own worth, with their light to show through, and then their worth showing through with, whether it's a book or a healing modality or a different type of coach or whatever that is for them, or whatever, or a combination of all of it. And being able to understand our own energy and our own worth. It's interesting how it can show up. And I think in your book, it really helps you really show your worth in a different way.
Yeah.
By understanding, like the energy leak. I think that's why when I read that, why I had such an epiphany, and all of your examples and the journaling. And then what I love about it is that you counteract it with upgrading your energy. And there's all these beautiful ways, of being able to do that. And, so many powerful things, that's in here about doing that, whether it's exercise, of visualizing, journaling, reading, gardening, which became so big, all of, different types of energy healing, sound therapy, sound codes, which is one of the things that I'm learning right now through our friend, who's been on the podcast as well. Nancy, if you guys haven't listened to Nancy Anger, it looks like anger. It's not actually how you pronounce it, but if you go listen to her podcast too. And then I love how you have this radiant energy plan, really being able to not only realize your leaks, identify, it's like scientific problem solving right here. Identify what the leaks are. Now here's some possible solutions. What works for you? Now what's your plan?
Yeah. And just to, piggyback on that, it's like the up level, right? Some people don't know, and it's a matter of trial and error. So just try something. If you don't know, or I do think that things change over time, like what brought you energy, 6 months from now may not bring you the same energy now. And just to circle back, that part of it, that up leveling your energy, is really what you were saying. It's like, light up your worth, like knowing your own worth, that you are worthy of up leveling your energy is so important, and what it is. And it's different for everybody. And it's different during the seasons and different things. And some people like, I like nature walks. I like to hike. That's their thing and it hasn't ever changed. For me, it's changed. For a couple of my clients, it's changed because, kids have gotten a little bit older. So then they've been able to, practice a little bit more and trying different things. And so it's a matter of like, you are worthy of these up leveling of your energy. And that's really important.
It is. And I think, and have you noticed this with your clients? I'm curious to know that once you decide that you're worthy enough at some level, this whole subconscious stuff that we all work on, is that once you start implementing and experimenting and figuring out what works, and then you start finding that, getting a groove, how that shows up, how people respond to you, and comments of like, wow, Jen, you just seem so much more happier or relaxed. And there's just something different about you. And they can't even maybe put their fingers on it. Have you witnessed that for yourself and with your clients?
For myself, absolutely. It's still shocking to me that when I get messages that say, oh my gosh, you inspired me to ... fill in the blank, whatever it is. And then I've seen clients really come into themselves when they get their energy. I don't want to say in order, that sounds very masculine, but that's the only word I can think of at the moment, is that when you really know your energy and you show up without the mask on and you show up authentically, people are attracted to you. And that I've seen time and time again. Once you're sort of in this alignment, it's like the rain comes with all the people who belong in your life. And I've seen that for clients. I've seen it for myself. I've seen it for non-clients that just, other business owners that are, really getting into the energy piece of it, because I do think that although it's only one section of the book, the more and more I talk about it, I feel like it's an umbrella of exactly where to start. Because if you don't have your energy aligned, you're just fumbling around trying to figure out all this other stuff that isn't quite fitting. The puzzle piece isn't quite fitting. And once you figure out the energy piece, your body runs smoother, life and business runs a little bit smoother, along with the alignment with yourself.
It almost, I used to have this thing at work that was like the easy button.
Yeah.
I think it was, it was a marketing thing, right? From one of the office supply people.
Yeah.
And I had that at work and I thought to myself, isn't this so true? This is almost like the easy button of understanding. Like it doesn't have to be so hard.
Right. Right. And you don't need all that time, which is why I did that mini and fold recharge. And I really talk to clients about looking at their calendars, which, you were talking about is, this white space. You, again, trial and error. Like maybe you only need a half an hour between clients. Maybe you need drive time, plus then you need some extra time, depending on, what your job is, what your business is. And then figuring out, that mini recharge could be just 1 or 2 minutes of breathing exercise. It's something that I'm not good at, to be honest. I don't have my watch on right now, but my Apple Watch reminds me to breathe all the time. I'm like, damn it. I'm like, I need to breathe. And it just shifts just enough to get you in a position where you can move forward.
Really powerful. I wanted to touch on towards the end of the book in chapter 12, you start talking about referral relationship strategies.
Yes.
Because I'm sure somebody who's listening, right? Especially for the last two types of inverts, they're like, well, then if I don't go, or if I'm too anxious and I don't go at all, or then I get into the overthinking, how am I going to grow? If I'm an entrepreneur, how am I going to grow my business? And you call this chapter getting comfortable with shining your light. I love it. And I I thought this was brilliant about, it's that go deep versus wide philosophy, and asking, ask and refer.
Yes.
But I
So it's
really
really
like, yeah.
identifying people, right? It's
Mhm.
identifying, and I truly believe you don't need to go to a bunch of networking events. I feel as though I built my business twofold, is that I got in with the right people, and finding those people was through networking, but it was networking in smaller groups. And it was doing things that I love. So hobbies, whether it's the gym, yoga, trying to think, gym, yoga. I'm a mom. So if you're a mom of young kids, a lot of the people that I talk to have come from moms clubs, moms groups. And, it started out as a friendship and then built into this business relationship. So I'll tell a quick story, and I think I'm almost positive it's in the book, is that I started a mompreneur Facebook group. I was in a mom's club, and there were most were MLMs. They, were really just passionate about what they loved. And actually a couple of them were extroverts. but we clicked, right? It was this group. We had young kids. It was an opportunity to come together, to learn from each other. And so we actually did it in my house, down in my basement. I like dragged in this, the deck patio furniture so that we could sit around, I moved stuff around so we could sit around this table in my family room. And another mom who wasn't an entrepreneur, she needed a little extra money. And then there was another one who just offered because she's like, oh, I love kids. And it's like, oh, great. And she would watch our kids for 90 minutes, and we would each take turns sharing our gifts. And it was just this fabulous place and now there's more women's groups out there. So that's why I encourage people to, you can start your own, there's nothing wrong with that, but tap into the ones that are already existing because they have structures in place that are meant to meet new people, in small groups or larger ones that, it depends on your comfort level. And so once you can do that, you can really do anything. You just stretch it. Everyone's like, oh, be outside your comfort zone. And I'm like, just stretch a little bit out of your comfort zone. You don't want to do lives on Facebook. Okay, fine. Join a small group that is more of a mastermind than a networking, where you come together with 5 to 7 or 5 to 10 other women who are business owners. You're meeting other business owners, but it could be a great way to collaborate too. So bringing forward ideas that don't need you to be in a big room of 50 people. There's actually one group that I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to continue. There's so many people. I don't know. And so it's okay. And I know someone who just does one-on-ones. They actually come to her for the most part. And she only does one-on-one Zoom calls or one-on-one coffees. And that's all she does. She doesn't do networking anymore. She used to. She realized it wasn't for her.
Well, I love that because, when you're building your business, one of the strategies and multiple coaching programs that I've been in is that the whole FB group thing. You have to have a group, right? And so I've started a group because I had to have one. And I thought, oh, this is so much fun. And then as more and more time goes by, what I realized is that the energy that it took for me to connect there, it's actually easier for me to go into somebody else's group and comment than it has been. So I've been at this pivotal point where I still have my group. It's about, I don't know, 450 people, and it's all around Light Up Your Worth. It's changed names 3 times. Now it's Light Up Your Worth, centered around the podcast. And I find that I used to do like, unicorn card readings or fairy card readings in it every week. And I did that for quite some time. And then I got to a point where I'm like, I'm tired.
Yeah.
Like I'm tired. And if I'm tired, my best self doesn't show up. And so I've been in this going back and forth, right? Of like, do I, after building 450 people, do you keep it or do you not keep it? And I thought to myself, I've been going back and forth and reading through your book actually, and I'm coming to that, this collaboration chapter, which is in here, about how can I have other people be more active in it, where I'm not the one who's always doing. Now, I do have a couple people who do really cool things in the group from, and because I've said that anybody on the podcast can do that, right? And but I haven't really nurtured that. And so when I was reading this, I thought about collaboration, I thought about it, our energy, and this your book really has given me some ideas on how to do that, because I want to get back to people, but
yeah, it has to be right, has to feel right.
the energy, right? Like it goes all the way back to this. Wow, that feels like a lot of leaky energy. Even though I love everybody who's in this group and how supportive they've been, you're still in that, so I guess I have to figure out how I'm going to restructure it. If I'm going to keep it moving it forward, because I actually really like the group, but being able to maintain that energy level.
I just shut down. I had a paid Facebook group, and I was like, this is not working for me, because I was in a place where I was like doing what everyone else was doing, and it was not working for me. I'm like, I'm sorry. I love all of you, but if you paid in full, I'm going to refund, prorate and refund you your remaining, months, because it's just not working for me. And here are some other ways that you can work with me. And I just realized that it was just too energy draining to really do that. And I know plenty of people who have had various successes with Facebook groups and even free ones. And I think it comes down to the energy that you bring forth in the group. And you have to be able to be there, fully, 100%.
Yeah. And I think understanding if we are an invert.
Yes.
With our energy. It's so powerful. Everybody needs to go do this quiz. Where can they find that quiz at that you're talking
in
about?
The book.
Yeah.
So in the book, there are hard copies, so you can get, a paperback copy on Amazon. And there's also the Kindle version. So if you wanted to, not grab the hard copy and check it out, which is something that I do with some of the books that I get recommended, I'll do the Kindle version and I'm like, oh my God, I need the hard copy.
Right. And so this book, so everybody knows, again, is Intropreneur, Inverted Entrepreneur, Strategies to Build Your Business as an Inverted Entrepreneur. And I'm talking with Jen Jones, just a reminder, as you want to rewrite that, or you can come to the end of this podcast to be able to get that. So how then, Jen, can somebody reach you? Because I'm sure this book is on like Amazon and
you can
everywhere,
find that
right?
on Amazon. But you can reach me on my website at connectandelevate.com. I'm also on Facebook and LinkedIn. If you want to connect that way, I am open to. I still have plenty of friends that I can add to Facebook. Mostly everything that I do, both business and personal, is public anyway, or you can follow me, private message me. I'd love to connect with anyone looking to really explore their introvertedness as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I highly, highly recommend this book. I mean, my dear friends are probably thinking, but you've never been extroverted. Interesting enough, though, because I just moved from Reno, right? Was that I have this really wonderful friend, Lynn, And her and her husband would come up. They have other mutual friends who live there, driving distance. So they would come over for the weekend, and we'd always connect and we'd go out as a big group. And she knew that I'm good one time out, right? Because there's a lot to do in that town. And one time out, but she didn't call me the next day to go do things, or the first day that they get there, right? It's usually on the Saturday, because then I could join. But it was interesting how, she knew that, right? Like, okay, that's for whatever reason, that's all I could do.
Right. Your capacity, that's it.
Yeah. So this is wonderful. This has been so wonderful, learning more about this whole being an invert entrepreneur, and the whole shift with our energy, whether somebody's just discovering this because they did have time down over the last 2 years with the pandemic. But I'm so glad, the perfect timing of having this out there for us as a resource. So thank you for joining me, Jen.
Thank you. And just one quick thing is that if you're looking to avoid burnout, or you feel like you're heading into burnout, or you're there, this might be a great place to start and revamp how you actually are looking at things and looking at your energy.
Ooh, I like that. That's really powerful. Burnout. Oh, that's a whole other episode for us to talk about, right? Oof. So, well, thanks again, Jen.
Thank you. I appreciate it.